Got about 30 minutes here. Have a little bit of an impromptu live stream. We're kind of in the middle of doing firewood right now. How's my audio? You never know. I'm usually, when I do live streams, they're typically struggle streams. I thought we'd cover some of the things that I found useful. I've been heating with firewood for a long time. I think it's a great thing to, you know, what do they say? You heat with firewood twice the time you cut it, warms you up and it warms you in your home. What I like about cutting firewood is you receive all of the benefits of your hard work. Uncle Sam, among others, has got their hands in everything. And if you go out and cut your own firewood, you receive the benefit of that. And it's a good thing to share with your family. Good thing to teach your kids. You get a lot of skills, chainsaws and such. So I thought I'd go over some of the fundamentals. I was just taking a moment to do a little maintenance. One thing that I wanted to bring up, I think it's important to know because you can get into trouble if you don't know it. There's basically, there's three pieces of equipment that I'd probably recommend when you're putting together your Pro-Ho firewood kit. A maul and a splitting axe. Now they're very different. They seem to be the same. A lot of people will think that the only difference is that one's smaller than the other, and that's not true. An axe is going to have a different temper on it. It's going to be forged. It's going to be very hard, so it holds an edge. It's not a striking tool. Now, there's variations of all, and what that means is typically with an axe, you're not going to strike on the pole. You're not going to want to hit metal together. They will fracture. Now, your big mauls like this, or a regular like a sledgehammer, that's going to be made out of a softer material, and it'll actually move and wedge and kind of mushroom out like this. This is the big Bruticus. This is the best splitting axe or splitting maul I've ever had. The big Prandy. But one thing you got to be careful of, and this is true for any striking tool, is to make sure that you deal with that mushroomed edge. You want to know the old-fashioned way? I'll show you the old-fashioned way, which is tedious, a little bit time-consuming, but it works. Mill bastard file. I have put links to the tools that I recommend. These are foundational tools, gentlemen, things that you should have in your repertoire. But a good mill bastard file. Mill bastard file, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, whatever you like, is going to be your bread and butter. And whenever you buy a file, I'll always make sure you got a file card here. And what you do is if you stay up on this, it's not too bad, is when these things start to mushroom out like this, you're going to file that down. You'll always be filing that down. Now, guys that use tools a lot actually wear them out. I learned this on wildland firefighting. When you sharpen your shovels and your Pulaskis and your rakes and such 4 or 5 times a day, they wear out. They don't last forever, and that's what these tools are made for. If you use them a lot, they will certainly wear out. But you want to take and file that. Now, if you want to join the 21st century, then you're going to get one of these. This is one of my favorite of the M12 tools, the little angle die grinder. Now, this attachment is called a roll lock. And the die grinder just has a arbor on there. It can grab all sorts of things. But this is the one that I find to be the most handy. A roll lock is like a little sanding disc or buffing or polishing, whatever you like. They got all different sorts of abrasion grits, I guess you'd call them. But my goodness, for sharpening, we have to do a lot of work. For sharpening tools that have been let go, or maybe an axe or a maul that's got a chip in it, this thing's your huckleberry. But I like this angle. I really like the M12 tools. My goodness, I thought that they were homeowner nonsense. I thought that they were just a little bit small. I wanted contractor grade, but to be honest, just working around here and, you know, as a professional homeowner, not a professional, I find these to be about the best. They're handy. They charge quick. The M12 line is really, really nice. There's a place for both of them. But this right here, get the combo pack. I used to buy these things at Granger's like one at a time. They were so expensive. And now a lot of these things have been reproduced in China, and I don't know. I know we all feel different on that, but I just can't pay $1.50, $2 a piece for these when I can buy a whole assortment of them, a whole bag of them for 20 bucks. So I buy these things, I put the ones on there that I buy. Just get a nice assortment, and it will come with a roll-lock attachment. And these are really great tools. So this is what, a 36 grit? So when you get these guys that are mushroomed out like this, you can make short work of them. What you want to do is you're going for a bevel. Bevel all four sides. It might be easier to do it on my wedge. You also want a good wedge. The forged wedges are going to be better. I put a couple up there from Council Tools. Council Tools is one of the last really good American tool manufacturers for hand tools. There's hardly any left. It's really hard to find a good one. You have maybe had bad experiences with hand tools because you're getting kind of the cheap stuff that's with no thought into it, no quality put into it that you get at your hardware store. But there's still a few out there. And when you work with tools that are sharp and with good hickory handles, and they really are a pleasure. But the same thing goes for your wedges. Now I keep up on these, so they're not too bad. But you can see there, it's starting to mushroom out. So you just get in the habit, you want to put a chamfer on here. Just knock that off. And the reason why, because if you don't, then when you strike, this will chip off. And those chips will fly off and they'll blind you. They'll go right in your eye. So always make sure you get your glasses on whenever you're striking metal to metal. But that's fine. Now, when I'm dealing with edges like that, I'm not going to deal too much with, I'm not going to worry about, like for wood splitting tools, I'm not going to worry about putting a razor edge on it. I'm not going to be shaving with it. But one thing you might want to consider is a stone. File, mill bastard file. The edge that you're going to get on this is more than enough for me. But when it comes to the nicer tools, go with the stone. Man, I don't know how many of these I've sold. Guys have bought these. This is the dual grit Lansky puck. It's got a coarse and a fine on it. It's got those chamfered corners on it. The edges knocked off so that they doesn't tend to chip off. This fits in the pocket so nice. Whenever I go out working with axes or anything, I always throw one of these in the back pocket and I can just quickly touch things up. Diesel, kerosene. Most people don't have kerosene. Diesel is going to be just as good, but it makes a big difference. If you don't have that, just spit on it. And how much is enough? Well, you're going to put it on there. Your new stone, when you put it on there, it's going to soak it up. You'll just keep putting it on and keep putting it on. It'll soak it up more and more. And you wonder, goodness, is that ever going to stop? It will. It'll eventually get completely sodden and it will stop soaking. And look at that one right there. Like even this one here is, which I don't know how many times, hundreds of times I've used it. Even this one still soaks it in. But that's good to have because what that does is that, like the file card that takes the chips out of the file, this helps to carry chips away. And it's really not that much to it. You know, the way you look at it is put a little, how do you know the angle's right? That's always the question. Put a little puddle on there until you get used to it. And basically just what you're doing is you're tipping that up and you just want like a little wash. You want to be pushing little waves. Little waves of diesel. If you can't tell exactly where you're grinding, you can just look and see. You'll look and see. And if you're not getting right there on the edge, then just change that angle a little bit. One trick you can do is you can take a Sharpie and just put a little Sharpie line on that leading edge. And then as you're grinding, you want to just wipe that line off and then you'll really know. We got a super chat from, goodness, my old eyes. Devonshire Diver, shout out to you. Are you solid anti-mega now? I've never been a mega guy. I don't know. You know, we were talking about this morning. So I do a morning live stream every morning, Monday through Friday, for my members. I call them the War Band, where we talk about these, we go into detail on these things, behind the scenes, my personal view on things, on politics, faith, religion, all these sort of things, where I can speak more freely than I will on the main channel. And we had that discussion this morning. And life is not as simple, clear-cut, I think, as maybe we would like it to be. We want to vote for someone and we want them to support 100% of the things that we support and be just like us. But, you know, there's a lot going on. The president has got to answer to other people. And it costs a lot to become a president or a U.S. senator. And you're, as the good book says, the borrower is slave to the lender. And when you got people that are coming in, putting up 100 million, 50 million, 20 million, they have a say in what you do, like it or not. That's just a simple fact of the matter. So just because you don't get what you want in everything, and I'm a very black and white extreme person. I'm the chief of sinners when it comes to this. You have a tendency to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But on reflecting and thinking about that, I thought about that a lot after that last video I put up. You know, my dad used to say, you strive for perfection and you end up with mediocre. Sometimes you just have to take what you can get and realize that there are other people with competing wants and desires. And can you imagine being in a position where you have to try to please everyone? I mean, I can sympathize somewhat. I have a large YouTube channel. Some people like what I do sometimes, some people don't, but you can never please anyone all the time. And the best thing that you can do is just stay true to the way you see life. I love what Owen Benjamin says. I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. And man, that's the case. I mean, I have come up on here and said things and taken positions that I believe to be true, only to find out later that maybe I didn't have all the information, or maybe I was wrong on that. And there's nothing wrong. The progressive man, the good man, is a man that when faced with facts that are in opposition to his dogmas, won't just dig in and double down, will make a correction and is willing to own it. So am I MAGA? I guess it depends on what day you ask me. I have not been MAGA in the past. But thank you for that super chat. I think that's a good question. How do you take care of these handles? Now, here's what I do. If you use them a lot, there's nothing better than a good sturdy knife. A bushcrafting knife should be in all of your kits. It should be one of your top 3 knives. Now, a bushcraft knife is going to be a working knife, a knife that you can have in your hand and work with all day long. It's not going to give you hot spots. It's not going to be uncomfortable. A working knife is not a folding knife. A folding knife is convenient. It's nice to have, especially nice for EDC. You can fold it. You can have actually a reasonably big knife, a nice blade, without having to have a sheath knife. It's not all appropriate in every situation. So when a working knife is always going to be a fixed blade knife. It's going to have a big sturdy handle and most likely a Scandinavian grind. So at the end of the season, I pick up a lot of sap and pitch and it builds up on the handles. The first thing I do before I oil it is I scrape it down. And this is true also, if you're buying tools, look at those shavings, isn't that nice? If you're buying wood handle tools that have a varnish on them, you got to get that off. If you've had a varnish tool and left it outside, you'll notice it gets all cracked and it gets nasty, and when you grab it with your hands, you have to have a glove because it's uncomfortable. No good. Get that varnish off. Why do they do that? Why do they put something on a tool that the end user has to take off? And it's one, people don't know, and because it looks pretty in the store. People like to, I know I do, if you're going to buy a tool, you want to pick it up and you want to handle it, and 100 guys grabs a tool, a good axe with a good hickory handle at the hardware store, you're going to get dirt and grime on it. It's going to look unsightly to the uninitiated. So they put varnish on it. So it's nice and clean, looks nice, but that will kill your hands. It will crack, looks terrible, uncomfortable, and you're unable to really nourish the wood. The reason why it cracks is because you can't replenish the oils that go into the wood. So the first thing you do, if it's got varnish on it, you'll be able to tell because it's all shiny. Take your knife, a good heavy knife, and scrape it down. And I scrape them down at the end of the season before I treat the handles. This is a nice axe. This was my granddad's hatchet. This is the hatchet head that he Got a little rust on there that he used to use. I used this when I was a boy. In our elk hunting camps, he used to stick in the round right next to the little wood stove, and we would split kindling with it. And years ago, I made a real special handle on it with a knob on it. This is one of my favorite handles right here, but this is one of my treasured tools. We have a super chat from Caleb. Shout out to you, Caleb. Caleb says, just got my Delta Pro Ultra. What is the best solar panel? Well, you know, they're all about the same, to be honest with you. One thing I'm interested in, there's a new technology. When I was we went to CES, the consumer show down in Las Vegas. Mrs. W and I was down there, and we saw some of the latest technology, and the new thing right now is the bidirectionals. The bidirectionals, they take sunlight from both sides, and they actually, the light that bounces off the ground also contributes to it. Now, are they as efficient as the regular ones that we're used to? I don't know yet. Even if they weren't as efficient, I'd probably be pretty likely to switch over to them because they're light. They're super, super light. A great big one, you could just pick it up and throw it around, and they don't have that heavy glass and all that stuff, and they just seem amazing. Like, you could easily mount them up on the top of a truck. Very interesting technology. So I'm really keen to get a hold of those. Actually, that reminds me, I'm gonna reach out to them and see if I can't get a couple coming this way. And I want to put up an array of those at the Cozy Cabin, and we can see. But I mean, I have all sorts of them. We have the regular ones, the glass ones. We have the flexible ones that fold up, and they all work really good. I haven't measured them. I'm not a nerd, but they all charge the EcoFlows. So I would say whatever works for you. If you're going to be portable, then I would take a look at that 400 watt fold up panel. We've used that really, really heavy. At first, when I saw that, I was concerned it was going to be a little bit fragile, but that's not been the case at all. It's held up really well. We've even had it out for long periods of time. We built a temporary little stand down at the war camp, and I like that panel. And the nice thing about it is that if you're going to be taking your EcoFlow camping or away from the home, then you can take it with you. And that's not going to be so easy for those big, heavy solar panels. Now, if I was going to just have it for home emergency backup, then I'd have the regular traditional panels, I think is what I would do. I think that's what I would do. All right, once you get that scraped off, the good stuff here. Goodness, we have a super chat. Mr. Henry Raven, shout out to you, Henry. Thank you for that, appreciate that. Henry says, what is your opinion on Trump's decision to bomb? Man, I hate war. I used to think that was cool when I was young and foolish, but you know, now I guess the older they get, I get more sentimental. I get it, and you know, they promised. He went on and on, America first, America first. What business we got over there messing around with Israel's problems? You know, Netanyahu lied to us in 2002. I remember when he got up in front of a joint session and said, my weapons of mass destruction. I will contribute him for really tipping the scale and getting us into that quagmire that we were in there for so long. And here we have the same thing going on. How long we've been hearing? How long we've been hearing about the boogeyman? Iran's got a nuclear weapon. What's Iran ever done to us? Honestly. I mean, we've heard lies, but really, we don't have any fear of Iran. We got two huge things that make us safe, that are the envy of the whole world, the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. And yet, we're supposed to think that there's a sleeper cell or there's a brown boogeyman in it. I know why. We all know why. We all know why, because our elected officials are bought and paid for. They're under the control of the Israeli lobby. Are they blackmailed because they've done diabolical things? I don't know. Are they beholden to them because they've donated so much money through AIPAC to all of their campaigns and they're put in there by these people? I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. We have Tulsi Gabbard. You know, isn't she supposed to be, wasn't she handpicked and put in intelligence by President Trump, she should be savvy to what's going on. She came out a couple days before that and said that this is not true. Iran is not building a bomb. They're not going to have a bomb ready in 3 or 4 days. And then when faced with that, what did Trump say? Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You know, so how are we supposed to know? We're trying to make decisions. We're trying to base our opinions and get a read of geopolitical things going on by what we hear. But when it's contradictory and everyone has an agenda and everyone's lying, you know, do we really know what's going on? All I know is I've never had an Iranian that's done anything mean to me, but I've had my own federal government oppress me terribly and steal from me. So, I don't know, gentlemen. I probably should be less outspoken on this. I'm basing what I believe and what I think to be true off of probably faulty information. If indeed they are trying to produce a weapon that's going to blow up countries or kill people, well, maybe he's got a point. Maybe he knows more about it than I do. But if it's just a matter of going in there and being Israel's attack dog and using the resources and the blood of the American people to defend a nation that actually hates us and disrespects us, then I can't get with that. I can't get with that. Stick to something I do know. Stick to talk about something I do know something about. We're going to put some oil on here, gentlemen. How's our time? Got about a half hour. Got things going on here. 15 minutes left. If you got a question, comment, bring those up. I'll share with you my favorite tools. I put links to the tools that I use. I'll tell you I don't have any of these, but I've looked at them extensively. Still, chainsaw they have their own line of tools now. And I'll tell you, they are really nice. I put one on there. If you want a good splitting maul that's just as good as mine, I think it's what, $60 right now. I should right down there below. I saw one of those in the store, and that is a well-built tool, just like the Germans would do. Goodness, we have a massive super chat from our brother, Not Just David, and double alternator member. Now remember, gentlemen, if you'd like to join the warband, if you'd like to participate in the morning live streams and really get into what's going on, where we can speak freely among friends, join the warband, become a member, and you'll unlock access to that. And we have our brother, Not Just David. Not Just David says, hello, old friend. Sometimes I want a beer, but a wise man said one in 7 people who drink become an alcoholic. And ask, would you keep a dog that bit you once? Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, you know, Christians shouldn't drink. More so because it's bad witness. God bless Cody. Well, first off, you may or may not be right about that. But the moment, I don't care if you're Christian or not, the moment you start telling other men what to do, then you're on the wrong path. You know, the good book says this: before you start trying to remove the speck from your neighbor's eye, why don't you take a look at the plank that's in your own eye? And what that means is that it's so easy to criticize other people and to see their faults and completely miss your own faults that are oftentimes worse than those that you're trying to straighten out or get fixed. We also have to remember your Christian faith or my Christian faith, that's not applied to someone who's a non-believer, nor should we judge them by those standards. If a person is not a believer, not a person of faith, is an atheist, then he has no obligation to live by your moral code. And why would you imply that upon him? You know, there's a lot about not judging. And a lot of ill-informed people of faith, that seems to be the silver bullet. Whenever they try to stand for anything or hold to any values, people will come at them. Your Bible says not to judge. Well, of course we judge. We're going to judge who babysits our children. We're going to let a known sex offender come in and babysit our children because, well, we're not supposed to judge, brother. Of course not. Of course we judge. We need to be discerning. The good book says you need to be as harmless as the dove, but wise as a serpent. Now, I don't disagree with you without alcohol. I've been vocal. I've had my own struggles with it. What's worked best for me is to abstain from it, to be honest, because I would like to be able to be one of those guys that can drink socially, but I'm a person of extremes. And once you have one old fashioned, it's hard not to have 3 or 4. It's off to the races. You know, so in situations like that, I understand, you know, I have a weakness when it comes to that. I've not made the best judgments. I don't have the ability to put the brakes on. But I'm not going to go and to tell another man, you shouldn't do this because I have a problem with it. That's not our business whatsoever. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he has control over that or better than us. So I don't mean to imply I don't need to put my morals on other men. I got enough to worry about with my own things. You're not wrong though. Alcohol is a great destroyer. There's probably not a person here in the live stream whose life hasn't personally been affected and touched in a negative way by alcohol and alcoholism. Why do you think it's the only legal drug, gentlemen? So I appreciate that. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But we need to be careful, and we need to look to our own problems before we start focusing on what other men should or should not be doing. Boiled linseed oil. When you get a new handle, you put it on every day for 7 days in a row. After that, you put it on about once a month or so. About 12 times in a year. Keep it by the bench. Set yourself a reminder. If you miss it, it doesn't make that much difference, but just as a rule of thumb. And then after that, once it's good and saturated, then you can do it about once a year, and it will be good. Ballistol. This is a very controversial and polarizing topic, and thank you for that generous super chat. My goodness. Not just David, I really do appreciate that. Did I read all that? Yeah. And I'm not picking on you, and I'm not saying you're wrong either. I'm not saying you're wrong. But I know when I wasn't walking in faith, the last thing I wanted was some Bible-thumping Christian, person of faith, imposing their will upon me. You know, Paul was one of the greatest evangelists. He wrote the majority of the New Testament. And he really summed it up. He traveled around. He was preaching to the Gentiles. He was preaching to folks outside of the children of Israel. Greeks, Mesopotamians, all manner of people. Romans. He said, you know, I'm all things to all people. He adapted his style according. He read the room. And we need to read the room too. You may be in a situation where people are struggling or their lives are destroyed with alcohol, and you might need to bring down the fire and wrath and, you know, and go hard on these things. But oftentimes it's the negative. When you start preaching to folks, the negative happens, and you don't further your cause. So I guess it depends. You got to read the room, gentlemen. You got to read the room. Oh my goodness, I got a new watch. This is my favorite watch. This is the famous Casio F91W, the cheapest watch in Casio lineup. You can buy these for about $24. How do you find a pink one? Good luck with that. I had to go to Japan and wait 2 months to get it, but I found it. The F91, also known as the terrorist watch. Legend has it that terrorists have used this watch, the F91, as a timer for improvised IEDs. These are iconic. You'll see these in Hollywood. Anyone who is into horology or watches, even though they may have watches that may be worth tens of thousands of dollars, most of the time they'll have one of these and everyone loves them. They are just such a classic, iconic watch. Take off the plastic band that comes with it and put an 18 millimeter NATO strap on there. I put a link to the right band below if you have one of these. 18 millimeters, lug to lug, the NATO strap, and have some fun with it. Man, these are great watches. I've been wearing this for a week now, and I absolutely am in love with it. And $24. If I see Proho wearing an F91W, I will know he knows what time it is. If you know what I mean, right? No, they're very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you for noticing. Mr. Axe. Knife or wallet carry? I don't know what that means. Simon says, is there Simon Lewis says, is there any particular wildlife here on the property that gives me the fizz? There is, my favorite. I've only seen them 3 times. So we have a half a mile of river frontage to the north. You've seen, that's where we used to do the river dips, down at the war camp there, summer quarters. We have freshwater otters. I don't know, maybe someone can look it up. What do you call a group of otters? They have a funny name. And they are the cutest little things. I've seen them 3 times. The last time was last year. I was down there editing a video, sitting out. It was the hot time of the day, and I heard this squeaking sound. And I looked up, and here they came. There was about 7 of them. And they go up on the bank, and they slide in the mud, and they roll, and they play, and they are just the sweetest and cutest things. I love those. They're pretty cagey. We also have a beaver that comes up and down, and I've yet to see him, but he did chop or cut down one of my trees. I had one little silver fir, silver fir over there that I was protecting and watering and looking after. And I drove by, and the thing's laying on the ground. Oh, it was missing. That's what it was, missing, the stump sticking up. And I thought, who is the Philistine that cut down that little tree? And I walked over and looked at it, and it had beaver teeth in it. So he runs up and down, but I haven't seen him yet. So I'd like to see the beaver, but I love those little otters. They're just cute, cute, cute as a bug's ear. Oh, I got that ballistol all over my hands, and I didn't bring a rag out here. Didn't bring a rag out here. Family, or a romp, is that what it is? It's a romp of otters. Yeah, I looked that up years ago, but I'd forgotten that. I don't know where those funny names come from for all those different animals. We have some new puppies over here. Miss May, you think they'll come over for a cameo? General Sam. It's hot out, and they've taken shade underneath the quad. Come here, Miss May. Oh, you poor hot dog panting. Come on over. Come on over. Come on. Come on, you just come say hi to everyone. Oh, goodness. These dogs are going to be gigantic. Oh, girl. Oh, I know she doesn't like to be picked up. General Sam. Come here, General Sam. Come here. Come here. Come here, General Sam. He doesn't like to be picked up either. I don't know if I can pick him up much longer. Oh, goodness, come here. He's got short hair. Come here. See, he knows I'm going to pick him up, and he's trying to, he's going to stand off a little bit. We found out that, I think it's the mother is Labrador, or Black Lab, and half Lab and half Golden Retriever, which are 2 wonderful breeds. You just can't get much better than that. And I believe the other one, and I don't remember if it's father or mother, was Mastiff and Great Dane. So these are going to be some big old dogs, I think. Big old dogs. Brian says, hello, Cody. I'm a USFS engine captain on a Type 3. Shout out to you. And a C Fuller, an evaluator. Thanks for all you do. Well, that's good. Yep, your Type... I was the engine boss on a Type 6, which is a smaller engine. A Type 6 is like an F350, 450, 550, 250 gallons of water, small. They work in strike teams and task force and different things. But your Type 3, let's see, if I have to go look at my IRPG. I believe that's the big, it's a heavier engine, maybe 500 gallons. How many gallons you keep on a Type 3? Structure, good for structure protection, a little bit different equipment, a little bit heavier duty rig. C faller, obviously competent faller. So yes, I do. My son Jack's going out on fire this year. He'll be on a Type 2 crew, and he's just waiting for the call up. Simon says, if I could pick just one USA made tool for someone overseas to buy when visiting, what would that be? A USA made tool. You know, a lot of guys, I would say a knife, a good folding knife, something from, you know, like a Benchmade or Spyderco, USA made. They really make nice stuff. Anything from Leatherman is nice. You get yourself a nice Leatherman tool. They're made right here in Oregon, just outside of Portland. A great company, great tools. That's probably what I would get, something like that. Something that you can't get. If you want something that's a little more budget oriented, but still very nice, Kershaw makes some nice knives, but a good Spyderco, go get yourself a pair of 3 or a Benchmade 940. My goodness, that'd be a pretty nice thing to have. Type 3 is 500 gallons, according to the 2022 IRPG. That's what I thought. Yeah, 500 gallons. I can picture it. I know exactly what they look like. I've never been on one. But heavy duty, big dual wheel, 2.5 ton, probably type truck. A truck that's going to carry more water, and you know, I just rarely see them on fires, to be honest. I was typically always on a type 6 that was supporting initial attack, or sometimes working on houses. We do structure protection sometimes. And they're not very common to see a type 3, not in my career. I mean, I'd see them in camp, but I don't know that I ever actually worked alongside of one, to be honest. How's our time? I had a half hour. Did I go over that? What time did we start? I probably went up, probably like 15 minutes over that. Oh yeah, I did. We're way over that. This was going to be a short stream, and then I get talking, and then we get carrying on. Well, that's it, gentlemen. I got a bunch of firewood to cut. I'm going to get back to it, but I thought we would. I just posted a video on how to split firewood with a chain and a bungee cord, and that's a good setup. You should go watch that video. When you split firewood, you know, when it breaks apart, especially, you know, guys that have some of that harder wood, that oak, there's a lot of tension in that wood. You'll split it and it'll fly 10 feet away from your chopping block, and you spend half a day picking the piece up. I mean, how many times before you get a round split? You know, you're picking it up 10 times before you get it all split. And if you take, those dogs are carrying on. If you take an old chunk of chain, just anything, it doesn't matter. It can be small. Smaller is good. This is actually too heavy. This was just the smallest piece I could find. A small piece of chain and a bungee cord, and just bend the end around like this. You wrap this around and hook it back to itself. There's squabbling underneath there. Pull that tight, and then you can split around it. You split around it and it holds it all together in one piece. And the reason why, when I first tried it, I used just a bungee cord, but then I would overstrike and miss, and I kept cutting through the bungee cord, and I gave up the whole thing. What I found is if you use a chain and you keep the chain towards you, that if you hit the chain, you won't break that. And I wouldn't worry about dulling your splitting axe or your wedge. You know, they're not precision tools anyway. And the chain will just move out of the way. That's not going to do any damage, but it won't split, it won't break. And that works really good. And so it holds it all together, so you can go around there and you can split it up into the billets the size you like, and then you can grab the whole thing and throw it in your quad or your wheelbarrow or whatever you like. We got a super chat. He says, I'll be honest, friend, I said it for both of us. You was the first person I listened to. God's word from I pray for you and Mrs. W. Jack Sweetloaf, like yes, and you're absolutely right. No, I didn't mean to. I wasn't going after you at all. You're 100% right. Now, if we're talking about people of faith, brothers talking to brothers with a common faith, then you're absolutely right. But again, don't do anything to cause someone to stumble. If you know someone that struggles with something, be charitable. Maybe you don't struggle with it, but don't do it in front of them. Don't do anything that would cause them to have a hard time, or also to misrepresent Christ. Now, those of us who are mature and men of the book, who know what the scriptures say, we understand that drinking is not forbidden, and anyone who says otherwise, they don't know their Bible. I can take you, I used to love to go up the Seventh-day Adventists, our Seventh-day Adventist friends, bless them. Some of the best people I've ever met. They're very anti-alcohol. They make the claim, they believe, it's their dogma that it's absolutely forbidden and it should never be used. But I know my scripture. And I take them to the verse that says, sell your tithe and buy strong drink and rejoice before the Lord. Now, what's the context of that? Does that mean that we should just drink all the time? No, the context is important. Would we not agree on that, gentlemen? But here's the context. If you can't make it to Jerusalem, this was speaking to the children of Israel at the time, but it gives us an insight on how God feels about it. If for some reason you can't make it to the feast, the annual feast, to come and to worship and to sacrifice to your God, then don't be sad about it. Don't wring your hands and be gloomy about it. Take the money that you were going to bring and offer to the priests, offer to the church, and throw a party for your friends and your family, and enjoy what you have, and enjoy the goodness of God. Meaning, don't have a bunch of heavy and strict rules. Don't lay burdensome rules upon people. It's not justifying to go out and get drunk all the time or to consume alcohol all the time. It's not it at all, but there's a time and a place for things. And what's more important than the alcohol is to enjoy your family, to enjoy the life that you've been able to build, to not be grinding and focusing on the negative all the time. You know, the amazing thing, if you read the writings of King Solomon, was King Solomon not the wisest man of all time? God gave him a supernatural wisdom that none of us have ever come close to. He tried everything. You think rock stars party? You think these tech millionaires that they've experienced what the world has to offer? Not even close compared to what King Solomon went through. He had 300 wives and 700 concubines, among others. He built cities. He built gardens. He did everything. He said, anything that my heart desired, I checked it out. I didn't hold myself back from anything. Drugs, women, alcohol, partying, spending money, buying stuff. Whatever his heart desired, he experienced it. And it destroyed him, or nearly destroyed him. And when he got through, when he was an old man and he was reflecting on this, you want to know what conclusion he came to, where true happiness can be found and nowhere else? It's not in women. It's not in vice. It's not in money. His conclusion was this: you know, after everything I've experienced, about the best thing a guy can do is to enjoy his food, enjoy his family, enjoy his woman, and trust God. It just came to that. You know, it was not difficult, it wasn't complicated. We have a super chat from Homestead Franklin. Shout out to you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm going over time. I'll give you guys an hour. We got 12 more minutes. 12 more minutes. We can hang out. I'll do more of these impromptu live streams. I got a little tripod holder here. I can snap my phone into it, so it's pretty easy. Yep. Jasper says, here's one for you. If you haven't already heard, I'd rather be in the mountains thinking about God than in church thinking about the mountains. Yeah, no, I've heard this before, and I understand it. I'm sympathetic to that. But it's often used as an excuse for someone not to put themselves out there. One thing that Scripture is very clear on is the body of Christ is important. You need to be around fellow believers. And I know how bad the Western church is, especially if you are a strong man, a masculine man, like the warband is. You may be a man of faith, you may believe, and then you show up to some of these Western churches and they're full of pussies and weak men. And man, I can't abide that. The Christian religion is a fighting man's religion. It's not this weak, soft soap that the Western church, you know, they teach you need to be a nice guy, you need to turn the other cheek, you need not to offend. That's not what my Bible says. The man after God's own heart was a man that was a warrior. He killed thousands of people. And he wasn't a man after God's own heart because he was a murderer or a soldier or a killer. He was a man after God's own heart because he actually did something. He was a man of passion, of faith. God would rather you do something with passion and enthusiasm, even if it's not 100% right, than to sit around on the fence and be a milquetoast man like the Western churches are full of. So I understand that. Yeah, people say, well, my church is the mountains. Well, you know, it's true. All of the things you see when you're in the city, everything that you look at is the handiwork of man. It doesn't lift you up to God. Where you're out in the country to live in these rural settings like this, and you look at mountains and rivers and animals, everything you see is God's handiwork. So there's something to that. But there's also something, it's also important to be around like-minded believers to encourage one another. I heard an old story one time of an African village that was converted to Christianity. And they had a custom, they would, morning and evening, they would all kind of go their own way out into the bush and spend time in prayer, spend time with their God privately. And over the years, the paths would get worn down, and the brush was always, would never grow up because they walked them twice a day. And sometimes there would be a path that would start to grow up, and that would tell everyone someone's not going and spending time with God. Someone's not praying. Someone is having a faith crisis. And the only way that you could know that is because of the bushes and the weeds would grow up on the path that they had normally walked for so many years. There was a physical manifestation of their crisis or their difficulty or the fact that they were going through a struggle. Therefore, the others that were strong in the faith could go and they could sympathize and they could encourage and they could inquire and help because they knew there was a problem. And that's how we lift one another up. We all go through the undulation of faith, the ebbs and flows. It's a roller coaster ride oftentimes. So if you're going through a dark time, if you're going through a struggle, and you don't have a group of people that can sympathize and understand and be aware of your struggle in your house, know what's going on, you can go up into the mountains and say that's your church, but the bear's not going to come and help you. There is something to be said about having a group, having some accountability. You may need to be supporting someone. You may need to encourage someone. And you will also need encouragement, and that's part of it. That's called the body of Christ. We have a super chat from TFM Constitutional Press. Shout out to you. TFM says, Ohio Supreme Court 24/12/89, Remnant Trumpet number 1, I am witness, is from Revelation 11. The Father wrote all of my paperwork versus the state. Well, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I know what you're referring to, but I don't understand the comment. But I appreciate that super chat. Maybe you could clarify here. We got 7 minutes. Yes, thank you. I got it. This is one of the warband members who's a jewelry maker. Did a very kind thing for me. Maybe you saw it, or it was a couple months ago. I have an antique Simmons sheet metal gauge that I use to measure the thicknesses of crescent ground crosscut saws. I very foolishly dropped it and broke it. It's very delicate and it's irreplaceable. Well, he's a jeweler, and he said, if you send that to me, I can re-weld that on there and I can fix it. And he did. He repaired it and sent it back to me better than it left. And he made this for me. Made this from a hand out of silver and turquoise. So it was actually supposed to be a watch fob for my pocket watch. But I don't often wear a pocket watch. And I asked him if it would be okay if I snipped that off there and I turned it into a pendant. And he said, I would be honored. So I I'll wear this. And so it's very nice, very special to me. I really appreciated that. TFM clarifies judgment has begun. Read the case. Okay. Well, yeah, judgment, judgment's been going on for some time. I don't disagree. The sign of the times, no one knows the time or the hour. Any man who says, well, Jesus is coming now, or he's coming in 2 years, or, that's not true. Not even the Son knows himself, but only the Father. But one thing we do know is the sign of the times. We can see what's taking place in the world, and we can read the prophecy and read the scriptures. And those of us that are men of the book, we've known this for some time now. Will it happen in our lifetime? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. What a great honor it would be to be the final generation that is alive and remains at the second coming. Can you imagine that? What a responsibility. I tell the war band this all the time. We meet every morning at 9:30 West Coast. Members only live stream. Come and be part of it. We talk about these things in detail. What an honor it is for this small group of men to be called to this important work, to be called out of Babylon. It's easy to think, if you're going to take an honest look at yourself, what you say and how you've behaved and how you've fallen short of the glory of God your entire life, how you've fallen short as a father, a husband, a wife, a son, and think, who am I? God only works with, he should only be working with holy, religious people, but that's not what he does, is it? He picks people like you and me that are all full of all sorts of problems. And he does that on purpose. Why? So that he's glorified, not us. I'm not a great speaker. I'm not a person of great intellect, or I haven't been to seminary, but I preach and I teach the word the best I can. I'm just the type of person that God calls, so that I won't take credit for it, because I know I'm of myself can do very little, but I can do all things through him who strengthens me. We have a super chat from TFM Constitutional. Thank you for that. Very generous of you. I appreciate that. Who says, the power of nations has been given onto me 3.5 years. It's 1,260 days, the time left from Trump. The responsibility has come on us. Yeshua is wearing many crowns. He has been returning through your truth. Yeah, I'm not going to be one to argue with you. But again, how do you know? A lot of people can say anything. What we have is we have the scriptures. That's one thing that sets the Christian Bible apart from all the other books is prophecy. It's prophecy. People can lie. People can say, God told me thus and so. God told me that you should do this. Well, God showed me a miracle. Well, that's fine. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But what good does that do me? I didn't see it. What I do know is what's written. It is written that these things will happen. Prophecy is written, and I can see that. You can see that. We can see that ourselves. So miracles are a wonderful thing. If you get to experience one, if God sees fit to give you a miracle or call you or give you a spiritual gift, that's a great blessing. But thank you for that. We have a super chat from TFM coming in again, who says, the angel told me to rise and measure the temple. I did so inside and out. It's 24. Yeah, I can't get into dates and times. That's a very complex subject. We can get into the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. Men for thousands of years have been trying to work these timelines. I myself have been trying to work these timelines. And the funny thing about it is we all come up with different times, don't we? Because the prophecy is unbroken. No man's going to know the time or the hour. It's kept in trust by God. We don't need to know. It doesn't make any difference. What control do we have of what's going to happen to us tomorrow? How much say do you have if you're even going to wake up in the morning? Now, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of its own problems. We got enough to worry about getting through the next minute, the next hour, the next day. So it's right and good and just. And it is the right thing to get in to study prophecy, to try to look to see if you can interpret the times so that you can be prepared and you can help prepare others. But anyone that gets up and says, I know the time and I know the days and Trump is this and the Antichrist is the Pope, maybe. But one thing I do know is that as of late, especially with the war band, we're reading through scriptures that I've read thousands of times and getting new insights. There seems to be a knowledge that God is pouring out on those who love him and keep his commandments, where he's giving new insights, supernatural understanding in stories and scripture and prophecy that I didn't see in the past. And it's not about just because I've just studied harder or I've read it more, because I've read it 100 times instead of 50 times, now I understand it. Spiritual things are spiritually understood. And the scriptures and the Bible, to anyone who's a non-believer that tries to sit down and read and understand it, they seem like foolishness to him because his eyes are blinded. It is a supernatural thing that God gives to his people, interpretation and understanding of the scriptures. Paul Edward, shout out to you. Paul Edward says, almost 27 and buying 43 acres in Ohio. Bare land, any suggestions? Build a shop first. That's what I would do before I built a house. Build a shop so you can get everything in out of the weather. If I was going to do it, I would put myself up a pole barn, a metal building if you can do it. If you can't swing that, pole barn's next best thing. And live in there. Put in a mezzanine, put in maybe a small apartment in there. If you can't afford that or don't have the time to do that, then just bring a trailer in there. Have a nice shop, put a wood stove in there, and you've got a work area where you can build stuff. You can keep your tools and your tractors and your equipment out of the weather, because it's harsh winters there in the Midwest. So start with the shop, get yourself a footing, and pull a trailer or a camper in there, build a mezzanine. Nice thing about building a mezzanine is just basically like a second story that's a half or a third of the shop with a staircase going up, is you can put those in there for pretty cheap. You can go on Facebook Marketplace and buy used cabinets and countertops. There's a lot of that stuff out there with people that boomers remodel all the time and they just want to get rid of their stuff. You can go get nice cherry cabinets, whatever. Build that out, and then ultimately when you get your house built, now you've got a nice mother-in-law place, or you got a place for your kids to come and stay, or if you have house guests, it will be very usable. And you're not doing anything, you're not building something that's going to have to be done again or torn down. I would much prefer, if I could, to just bootleg a little septic system in and build a little basic studio in my main shop, and you'd be snug as a bug in a rug in there for many years. We have a super chat from TFM who says, will you read the case Supreme Court, Ohio 24-1289? Probably not. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not a great intellectual, and I have got a lot of irons in the fire right now. So if you want to become a member and you want to bring that to the attention of the war band in the morning studies, I would have more time to take a look at that. But I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do something that I probably won't. I know prophecy. I know the scriptures. I'm in them daily. I get it, man. I'm on board with you. Not just David, coming in with a super chat, said, for everyone and anyone interested in biblical archaeology, look at Expedition Bible and watch The Ark and the Darkness. If you want truth, they're incredible. Hope you don't mind. I can't speak to that. Not familiar with it, haven't read it, but there you have it. You can check that out if you want to. TFM Constitutional saying, he's telling me to come out to you. Please advise on how. Well, he's not telling me that. So I am reluctant, people who say God has a message for me and he wants me to tell you something. You know, it needs to be confirmed. You know, the old story is the young man at church who wants very badly to marry the young girl. And he goes to her and says, God told me that we are to be married next year. And she says, well, maybe so, but he hasn't told me yet. See, so again, do respect our privacy. I know it's kind of a difficult thing. The conversation, it's kind of one-sided because I have been uploading content for coming up on 17 years. I've been shared my life. You guys have watched my kids grow up. I've been very open and candid about most things. All things, really. And if you've watched for a lot of years, you know, you can learn a lot about a person. I mean, I've followed people on YouTube for many, many years, and I do know them. You know, you can't fake who a person is if you've got 4,000 videos. So you can get kind of an idea, and you really feel like you know them. But I'm at a disadvantage because I don't know the other. I don't have that back to you guys. I don't know who you are, what your motives are. They may be sincere, they may be not. So it's one thing we have to do. I have to first and foremost look after my family, protect my privacy and my anonymity as best as possible. But I don't want unwanted guests. TFM says, I tried to turn myself in for SBR. I don't know what that means. TFM is prolific here in the super chat. He says, I can understand everything about your true discernment from one question. What meridian is your land surveyed on? I don't know. I don't know what that means. You have me at a disadvantage. I think you're more knowledgeable, probably better educated than I myself. I don't know. Avalon says, hey, Cody, off topic, what is the watch with the pink? Is it a, no, I mentioned this earlier. I actually put a link down below. I put the products that I like that I shared in the short. It's the famous Casio F91W. It's one of the most iconic watches ever made, and the cheapest. You can get them for about $24. And you won't be able to find the pink one. Not without a lot of hard work. I had to actually source this out of Japan. Casio is a Japanese company like Seiko, and they have watches they make for the US market, and they have watches that they make for the American market. And they're not always the same. And I like to be different, as you know. So I like to have different things, and I kind of enjoy doing that sort of thing. So I had to look far and hard to find the pink one. It was only made in Japan in this color that I know of, and it was really difficult to get here, but I finally got it. But it's if you want to see it, it's the F91W. You'll see they're often, actors will wear them. They put them in Hollywood movies. I believe Osama bin Laden wore this watch. It's the terrorist watch. They claim that they used to use them for timers for IEDs. So it's got kind of a cool, rich, storied history. Well, I can't share the fixed blade EDC. I'll give you a sneak peek, but it's a prototype that we're working on. That's going to be my signature knife, and I'm not going to take it. I promised I wouldn't share it, but I want to use it. I've been using it and carrying it for a long time. And it won't necessarily be this knife. This is a prototype, and I use it daily and I carry it because I want to refine it, so that when I put my name on it and we make it available, of course, all USA made, that it will be exactly the way I want it. So more to come on that, but I can't show you. Oh, the weather is nice here, Paul. It's absolutely beautiful. Just a little bit overcast, big fluffy clouds today. It feels like probably the mid 80s if I had to guess. Kill King 110. Shout out to you. Good to see you here. Are you going to be affected by the potential forced sale of public land? Yeah, I don't know a lot about that. Mrs. W was mentioning that the other day, that apparently large swaths, especially out west, of national forests or government-held land are going to be auctioned off or sold to privately, which would include the giant Gifford Pinchot to the north of us. But I don't know. I saw a map. I glanced at it, some of these proposed sales, but I don't know enough about it to comment on it, to be honest with you. Randall Lehman, have you ever tried Chris Reeves knives? No, Randall, I haven't, but that's one of my grail knives. I don't think I would spend the money on it. A Chris Reeves Sebenza, I think is, in my opinion, one of the most classic, beautifully made, iconic folding EDC knives that I've ever seen. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I've never owned one. I've never even held one. I've watched 100 videos on it, reviews on the Sebenza, and it's a beautiful, I guess, semi-custom knife. What's the best good truck? A Toyota. The best vehicle you can buy, and they're not without their problems of late. We could get into that in another stream, but if I was going to buy a first truck, what would really be cool, like if you showed up with this truck out here to one of our events, I would give you the nod of approval. I would know that you are absolutely, without a doubt, God-level pro-ho. Would be the Gen 1 Tundra. The Gen 1 Tundra, I think, is an amazing, amazing truck. I would look for one of those. Or a Tacoma. any domestics, I probably wouldn't buy any of the domestic trucks that were post-COVID. So probably nothing newer than a 2018. They seem to have lots of problems after that. Yeah, well, yes, the Toyota Tacoma, it is terribly uncomfortable. They're straight axles, and I mean, those Toyota trucks, technology-wise, are 10, 15 years behind everything else. But that's kind of that's kind of the charm of it. They're reasonably simple to work on, pretty straightforward. They're tough. They're well made. You know, one of the reasons why Toyota engines, this is just one of many things. There's many things that go into making something good. It's never really just one thing. It's just a pattern of excellence. You take their engines, or in the past anyway, you know, everything was forged cranks, forged connecting rods. You know, that's not the case. That's things that you put in race engines or performance engines. It's extremely expensive. And they do that sort of thing, and that's why they're so reliable, among many other things. Andy says, do you prefer the Rogue Pulaski over the traditional Pulaski? Yeah, it's a superior tool. It's not as iconic. It's not you know, the super cool, the classic, like, you know, the regular Pulaski. Do you know the story of Ed Pulaski? How that tool was invented? Ed Pulaski was a forest ranger and wildland firefighter and leader of men. He got into a bad spot. This would have been, oh, I forget, maybe the 30s or 40s. I could have that wrong. They got overran by a wildland fire, and they were close to perishing. The guys were burning up. They were dying of smoke inhalation. He led them into an abandoned mine shaft, a cave. And apparently the conditions inside were so terrible and so hot because the fire was raging outside that several of the men tried to leave. It was so uncomfortable and so deadly inside the cave where they took shelter that they were willing to take their chances out in the fire, if that tells you anything. And he pulled his service revolver, and held them at bay and forced them to stay in, ultimately saved their lives. He invented the Pulaski. He took I don't know what it was. He took something that they were using at the time, an axe, and maybe he welded on a grubbing feature on the back and turned it into a combination tool that has the cutting feature, the axe feature on the front, and then the hoe or the grubbing feature on the back. Yeah, the Toyota T100, or 1000, yes, that's the one I'm referring to. What did I call it? The predecessor to the Tundra. Thank you very much. The T100, I think it is. I don't think it's a 1000, is it? 65 or 66 Mustang? I prefer the 67. The 67 fastback is cooler. Yeah, but both are good. My brother, or my dad's brother, his oldest brother, bought the first Mustang in the Pacific Northwest. It was black. It was what was it, a 63 and a half. I think they came out in 64, but it was 60. I think there was a 63 and a half model. It was black with the straight six. He had the very first one. Yeah, AMG is right. The Toyota is the AK-47 of the trucks. Yeah, you always see you always see the terrorists running those Hiluxes with the 50 cal on the back. Thoughts on sailing? I enjoy sailing. I'm a very amateur sailor. I used to have a sailboat. I had a catamaran, and I taught myself how to sail. I actually took some lessons, and I used to rent monohulls a little bit and go out just for day trips. I haven't never done it overnight. And then I eventually bought my own catamaran, and I sailed that around a little bit. And then that was years ago. And then kiteboarding. I kiteboard, and so that's not exactly sailing, but it's on the same principle. So I'm an amateur. I think it's wonderful. I love sailing. Actually, about 35 minutes from here is the Columbia River And there's a marina down there, and once a month they do a little regatta where they race these little small, really small monohull boats, and all the boats are exactly the same. And I don't know what they are. It's a common, popular. It's really approachable. You know, you can rent them, you could buy one. I mean, they're just really small. They're like 8 or 9 feet long. And I've been thinking maybe going down there and checking that out and see if maybe I wouldn't, the Sweet Loaf and I maybe get into racing in the regatta, or just, just as amateurs. Cougars, oh, cougars everywhere. Yeah, I actually just posted a picture 4 days ago on the community tabs of Mr. Peter. Walked right up on one. An amazing picture. You should go look at it. Mr. Brian's sister was visiting here 2 weeks ago. He lives next door, and she was outside just sitting in the lawn chair by the stream, and one poked its head up from the irrigation ditch about 50 feet away from here. We got tons of them around here. Caleb says, I used to do that with the 420 class. I don't know what those boats are called, or I don't even know what classes they are, but you probably know more about it than I do. Thank you, Mr. Jacob T. I love this pendant. I'll tell you, I get so many compliments on this. When we were down at VidCon, I had Mrs. Debbie and I went to had a very nice. Yeah, isn't it beautiful? It looks good with my skin, my red skin, does it not? Yeah, turquoise. I got a lot of Native American on my grandfather's side, and my family was heavy into jewelry making. Where a lot of the women loved to wear turquoise, and they did beadwork and such. A lot of the stuff I still have today. And so it's really close to my heart, the silver and turquoise. I remember my grandmother always wearing it and making jewelry. So this was such a wonderful gift that you made for me. And I just love it. But we were just down in Anaheim. Mrs. W and I were going out to a really nice restaurant, a steakhouse. And there was a native, great big, gigantic guy, a doorman. And he was Native American. And he stopped me and asked me about the pendant and where did I get it, and he really liked it and thought it looked really nice. I got a lot of compliments on it. Sunfish or laser sailboats? Yeah, it may be one of those. Sunfish, I'm familiar with the sunfish. I think it's a laser. It does not look like a sunfish. I do know what a sunfish looks like. Paul wants the explanation of grace. I'll close with this. How do I explain grace? I can explain it with the story because it helps me. I heard a story about a theological professor that was having this problem, trying to explain grace to his class, and they just weren't getting it. We're not getting it. The final exam came, and it was a closed book, and all the students sat down at the table, and the exam was face down on the desk in front of them. And this was half of the grade, and he was thinking, no one's going to graduate this class. They haven't paid attention, I haven't got the point across, they don't understand it, maybe it's my fault, maybe it's their fault. But he came up with an idea. So he said, in 10 seconds, I want everyone to turn the paper over and start your exam. You have a half hour to complete it. And 3, 2, 1, the clock ticked. They all flipped their paper over, grabbed their pencils to start writing, only to find out that the exams had all been filled out perfectly, 100% scored at the top. Every single student. Whether they studied or not, whether they put the time in or not, it didn't make any difference. They all received the same benefit. And he looked at the class and said, all of you are the beneficiaries of grace. And I think that that's a great story. I mean, it's not perfect. It's hard to comprehend the incomprehensible, but it does help me. These analogies, these stories do help me. It is the giving of something that you're not worthy to receive. That's what grace is. All right, gentlemen. I was going to go a half hour. We'll go an hour and a half. May God bless you and your families. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for all the super chats. Let me know in the comments of this video if you enjoy these impromptu streams. If you'd like to see topics, you guys are driving the ship as well. I do read the comments. I'd like to hear back. Do you like having an open forum, a question and answer? Would you like me to pre-prepare topics? I was going to do a bunch of tool restoration here, but we ended up just hanging out and talking, and that's always my favorite. It always seems to be more genuine. But let me know in the comments, and you can help drive the ship. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you guys all on the next video.